Okay, for Chapter 1, Lesson 1.2, I'm going to work 4 problems for you. The first problem is number 2 on page 3 in your workbook. The question is -7 times -7 times -7 times -7, and we're supposed to write this expression using exponents. So since we have 1, 2, 3, 4 -7s, we're going to write this as -7 to the 4th power. And that's the solution to that problem. The second problem is problem number 11. This problem is an order of operations problem. It says to evaluate the expression, which means we're going to get a final value. So I'm going to use my order of operations, which means I'm going to start with parentheses. So I have 2 groupings of parentheses, and I'm going to deal with those first. 6 minus 5 is 1. I'm going to copy the plus 14 and divide it by. And then I'm going to work 2 plus 5 is 7. And now my next step is to deal with the exponents. So I have an exponent in 1 to the 3rd power. So 1 to the 3rd power is 1. And now I have 1 plus 14 divided by 7. The next step in order of operations is multiplication, which I don't have, so I go on to division, which we have right here. So now I have 1 plus 2, because 14 divided by 7 is 2, and then I'm left with 1 plus 2, which equals 3. So my final solution is 3. That's what we get when we evaluate this expression. The next problem I have, number 15, is another order of operations problem, except for this time we have a number to plug in. X equals -2, so when I come to my problem...
Teachers, at this time we go ahead and dismiss. All students need to report to the...
Alright, when we start the problem, we're going to plug in -2 for X in both places that X occurs. Then I'm going to use my order of operations to solve this. We have parentheses in the problem, but they're not actual groupings. So I'm going to go to the next step, which is to deal with exponents. So I'm going to take 3 times -2 squared. -2 squared is -2 times -2, which is positive 4, minus 2 times -2. My next step is going to be to multiply. So 3 times 4 is 12. Minus 2 times -2, which is -4. Now in this instance I have 2 negatives, so if I have 2 negatives together they both become positive. So this problem is actually 12 plus 4, and 12 plus 4 is 16, so that is what we get when we evaluate this problem. And the last problem I'm going to work for you is again an evaluation problem where you plug in the X, but this time we also have a Y. So if I plug in 3 for X, and I plug in 4 for Y, and notice that I'm using parentheses every time I plug numbers in, even if I don't really need it. That way I don't make any errors with signs. Okay, so following the order of operations, remember that the division symbol is a great big grouping of its own. So I have to deal with the top part and I have to deal with the bottom part separately before I can divide them. So when I have 3 times 3 is 9 plus 4 minus 1, and I don't need the parentheses around the 4 because it doesn't have it's not negative. And then in the denominator I have 2 times 3, which is 6, minus 4. So now what I have in the top part and the bottom part. In the top part I have 9 plus 4 minus 1. So 9 plus 4 minus 1 is 13 minus 1, which is 12. That's my numerator. And then in my denominator I had 6 minus 4. So 6 minus 4 is 2. So my problem is now 12 divided by 2, and 12 divided by 2 is actually 6. So after dealing with the numerator and denominator separately, I get 6 for the solution. And those are all of the problems from Chapter 1, Section 2.